The webinar is now being recorded. So thank you again, everyone, for joining this webinar on some of IDEA's initiatives and how folks can get involved. I'm Sarah Gallagher, Program Officer for IDEA, and I'm also joined by my colleagues Lee Moran and Andrea Source. I also wanted to give a quick shout out and thanks to Katya and Rebecca from Andy, who helped us publicize this webinar, and we'll be working with them on Global Diaspora Week and some other initiatives you may hear about as we go on in the call. So the first thing I wanted to address, and I apologize if this is old information for folks, but I always think it's important to give a little bit of background. What are diasporas and why do they matter? So when we're talking about diaspora, we mean anyone who lives outside of their country of heritage who still maintains an active tie to it. That could be with family, friends, business, a spectrum of activities that qualify as engagement. And we know that diasporas are a major resource for development because of their skills, their knowledge, and the passion that they have for countries where they come from, either themselves or their families generations up. Just to give you a couple of stats to give you a grasp of how big diasporas are and what kind of impact they have, they number about 230 million. In the world. This is huge. If diasporas made up a country, they'd be the 5th largest in the entire world. Remittances are another enormous, enormous thing that diasporas contribute to development into the world. Their global remittances were about 580 billion in 2014, and that number continues to grow, and it also continues to outpace development aid. So I apologize if some of you already know about IDEA, but I think we're about half IDEA members on this call, half Andy members. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about what IDEA is. Essentially, it's a platform to harness the power, energy, and resources of diaspora groups for a range of development and diplomatic purposes. We're a partnership between the U.S. Department of State, USAID, and Calvert Foundation, which is the managing partner. We're a membership organization, so we have about 850 members who are mostly individuals affiliated with some sort of diaspora organization or an organization that is working with diaspora communities. And we also have individual members who can benefit from our programming like trainings and Global Diaspora Week, which I'll talk a little bit more about. So I'm going to give just a brief overview of some of our initiatives, capacity development work, our Diaspora Map, MicroMentor group, and Global Diaspora Week, where I'll spend most of my time discussing. So capacity development. As I said, we have a large membership base, and one of the main ways that we can contribute to diasporas contributing to development by providing them with capacity development resources. This is mostly in the form of in-person and online trainings, and I've listed some examples here. We have a monthly webinar series where we provide diasporas with information on things like strategy, volunteer management, how to engage in next generation topics that are interesting to them and that will help them increase their ability to carry out their missions. We also have in-person trainings like the Diaspora Leadership Training Series. The last one is actually July 18th, so for those of you who are local, registration is still open. The Diaspora Map. This is a pretty cool thing that we've come up with in the last year. It's an interactive visualization of our membership base, and you can go to the website map.diasporaalliance.org and search and sort for different diaspora groups. Say you're interested in a Kenyan diaspora group working on education. You can search and sort for that and find them on the map. You can also find opportunities to engage with these groups. So say the Kenyan organization you found has a volunteering opportunity or an upcoming event. You can click on the Opportunities tab and check that out as well. The map is something that we'll come back to as well because this is where all the Global Diaspora Week events for this year will be hosted so that during the week people can go to the map and find events near them. MicroMentor. This is a partnership we started with MicroMentor about 6 months ago, and it's an online platform that connects entrepreneurs and business experts in mentoring relationships. It's a very easy to use platform. It's online, free for users, and available in English, Spanish, and French. And we started a group on MicroMentor to be able to provide this opportunity to our members and also give our members who had business experience the opportunity to give back to entrepreneurs in their countries of heritage or other diaspora entrepreneurs in our network. We have about 70 members in our network right now, and they're pairing up with each other and are finding it really useful to have a mentor who not only has the skills and experience that they're looking for, but also maybe cultural competency, has worked in economies where they do business as well. So Global Diaspora Week, the sort of crux of my presentation that I'm going to be wrapping up for you soon. Global Diaspora Week is a week-long series of events, and it'll take place this year from October 11th to the 17th, 2015. And it's a series of events that help celebrate diaspora communities and their contributions to global development. You can sort of think of it like a global entrepreneurship week, but instead the theme is diaspora. To give you an idea of the scope of it, last year we had over 70 events participate in 8 countries. And if you're interested in seeing some of those examples, you can go to our website to see. But there were events from formal economic forums to art exhibits to fun runs, anything that gets diaspora communities engaged with each other and exchanging, ideas and learnings about their initiatives. Since we have a group online who's sort of interested in the LATAM perspective, I wanted to just give you some highlights from last year's Global Diaspora Week for events that were either in Latin America or were involving the Latin American diaspora. So we had a couple that were led by US-Mexico Foundation. Those actually took place in Mexico. One was Dialogues with Dreamers in Mexico, and the other was about returned diasporas and how you can bring returned dreamers into the Mexican public education system more effectively. There were a few others that took place in the US that were interested in LATAM diaspora communities. There was one about the Mexican diaspora in California, and a group called DIGAI, which is a Brazilian diaspora organization, hosted 5 events for Global Diaspora Week that were all focused on diaspora members being able to tell their story and share their experiences. So this year, we're working with regional partners. So these are essentially folks who will replicate IdEA's role in different parts around the world, in different parts of the world. They will be essentially recruiting event hosts for Global Diaspora Week, working with them one-on-one to try to help publicize their events and attract more attendees for those events. And they'll be working very closely with IdEA so that we can make Global Diaspora Week an even more global event. As I said last year, we had plenty of participants, over 70 events, but they were only in 8 countries. Most of our events sort of were focused in the United States because that's sort of naturally where IdEA has the strongest networks. But we want the regional partners and hopefully some of our friends on this webinar to help us expand the global footprint of Global Diaspora Week. If you know an organization who would be interested, or if your organization would be interested in serving as a regional partner, especially in Latin America, please do send us an email. You can reach us at information@diasporaalliance.org. So this is basically the simplest way to get involved with Global Diaspora Week, and it's also the most fun, I think. You can host your own event for GDW. As I mentioned, events can be wide-ranging. It can be an informal conversation at a coffee shop. It can be a panel discussion, whatever your diaspora group thinks would be beneficial to whatever conversation they're interested in having. We're very flexible on what can participate in the week. You don't even have to be a diaspora group to participate. If you're interested in working with diaspora communities and diaspora is a theme of your event, you can host an event for GDW. So essentially what this means is that you will plan and run your event, lead all the marketing efforts, do any fundraising you might need to do to support your event, and amplify GDW marketing materials more broadly, so that people know that your event is part of Global Diaspora Week and that Global Diaspora Week has a larger presence around the world. IdEA's role in the week is really sort of hosting this umbrella program, recruiting event hosts to participate in different areas around the world, helping drive your promotional efforts, providing a little bit of advice if needed and necessary, and working directly with regional partners to make sure that event hosts have all the information they need, all the marketing collateral and all of that that would be useful for their events. You can also check out our GDW website for additional resources. I know I just gave a really quick overview of what Global Diaspora Week is, but if you go to that website, diasporaalliance.org/global-week, global-diaspora-week. You'll see things like a registration guide, a one-pager in English, Spanish, and French, as well as a more in-depth presentation about what Global Diaspora Week is and how you can get involved. So I think I'm going to pause there on Global Diaspora Week. If you have any questions, please do send them to the chat box on the left side of your screen, and we'll take them at the end. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Lee Moran, who's going to talk a little bit about the diaspora investment initiatives.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for that overview of IdEA. And as Sarah said, I'd really like to re-emphasize, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them either private to the presenters or to everyone in the chat box on the left. And I'm just going to give a brief overview of one of the activities that IdEA is supporting, and the reason that Calvert Foundation is the managing partner of IdEA, which is our diaspora investment initiatives. So Calvert Foundation, as some of you know, is an impact investing fund. We are an operating nonprofit. We are not an endowed foundation, and we're not a grant-making institution. And what we do is we raise capital from investors, from all sorts of investors, from retail investors, institutional investors, accredited investors. We pool that money and we take it and we lend it globally around the world. About 60% of our portfolio is here in the U.S. and 40% is deployed internationally. And so we raise our money through the sale of an investment product called the Community Investment Note. And the unique part about the Community Investment Note is it's highly accessible. You can purchase it in one of three ways. You can purchase it online with as little as $20. You can purchase it, you or your financial advisor can purchase it and hold it in your brokerage account. And you can also purchase it directly through Calvert Foundation. So it's a highly accessible product for a wide audience of people. And so as Calvert Foundation, what we've been doing over the past year or so is really exploring how we can use our product, our platform, given that we have such an accessible platform, and we are one of the few impact investing funds that invests in both domestically and in international development to leverage diaspora investment. Sarah gave you some stats at the beginning of the presentation that really shows sort of how much desire and interest there is from diaspora communities in contributing back to their country, and how much money sort of flows that way now. So what we've been doing is exploring whether we can use our platform to do that. And it's really important for Calvert Foundation. One of our main goals is really to explore how do you get people to align their investment assets with their values, and place, we found it is really important to people, both sort of where they're coming from and where they're going to. So this is a little slide that sort of just gives you an overview of how our investment process works generally. And as I said, over the past few years, we've been exploring these diaspora investment questions, and we announced the first of our diaspora investment initiatives, which will be focused on India, back in January. And we will also, the other diaspora area that we're focusing on is Latin America as a region. And so we will be lending with a regional partner throughout Central and South America. And we will also be, as part of the Latin American Diaspora Campaign, focusing on underserved communities in the U.S. with organizations that predominantly serve underserved Latino communities in the U.S. So there will be sort of a multinational aspect to our Latin American Diaspora Campaign. And that will be launching later this fall, where we'll have more details about that. And you can also visit, sign up for our listserv and visit our website, vested.org, to explore some of the investment offerings we have there. What I would like to say is that Calvert Foundation, as we're sort of putting together, particularly the Latin American Diaspora Investment Initiative, we'd love to hear from you if you work with diaspora communities here in the U.S. and you have some ideas or feedback or advice for us on how to really engage those populations to invest for a social and a financial return. We'd love to hear from you. So please feel free to, as I said, type in a question on the side or shoot us an email afterwards. And one of the important things that we're doing with IdEA is sort of introducing the idea of incorporating diasporas into your works across a range of sectors. And we think one of the more important sectors that we can focus on is the impact investing sector. So this past year, I think I recognize a few of the attendees on the webinar from attending the FLII. We attended the Latin American Impact Investing Forum, which is the largest impact investing conference in the region, and designed a series of panels that really incorporated diaspora into them to sort of introduce the topic and the importance of the topics to a really wide-ranging audience at the FLII. And we had a great reception there. We had lunch with a great attendance from Latin America and a real interest and I think awareness of people who are starting to think about how they can really engage their diaspora populations as part of their work. And so I'm going to pause there as well on my presentation and then hand it over to my colleague, Andrea Source, who's going to go over some of the results we did along the lines of the Diaspora Investment Initiative that I spoke about before, really our efforts to try and understand these, how we reach these communities effectively and how we get them involved. And part of our work in that was doing an online survey with a group called Think Now Research earlier this fall. And we'll be releasing more information about this survey later this year, but we're going to have Andrea give us a brief overview now.
Great. Thank you, Lee. So as Lee mentioned, as a component of the Diaspora Investment Initiatives, Calvert Foundation wanted to learn a little bit more about diaspora populations and specifically their interest in impact investing in their countries of origin. And so they commissioned a study with Think Now, which is a leading Hispanic polling public policy polling firm. And Think Now conducted an online survey of over 1,000 Hispanic adults. Was over the age of 18 of Mexican descent specifically. And we chose this population, I'm sure it's no secret to this group, because it is one of the largest diasporas in the U.S. and that Mexican Americans are the largest percentage of the U.S. Hispanic population. So it was an opportunity to really get to know a prominent diaspora group in the United States and also one in which there are economic and social needs, both in their communities in Mexico as well as Hispanic communities here in the U.S. So it's an opportunity to explore their familiarity with impact investing, how they interact with their financial services, and also where they might be interested in investing in the future. So as Lee mentioned, more of this survey will be released in the future, but we wanted to give you a taste of some of the general findings from this study. And this is pretty consistent with Calvert's overall investor base, but generally household income was a predictor of Mexican Americans' knowledge, comfort, and interest in investing. So the higher income of those surveyed, the higher income folks had more interest in impact investing, both in the U.S. and in Mexico. And the majority of respondents did like the idea of investing for social impact in Mexico. Again, the highest income group was most interested in also millennials, so the younger population was more interested in investing for social impact. And males expressed more interest than females, which we're going to investigate a little bit more. We also asked them what sectors they might be most interested in, and the top two were education and job creation. And there was really no variation across age or income or gender in that. And healthcare was third. I'm actually going to show you, or not, what has happened. Well, we were going to show you a graph of the top 5 causes that people were most interested in supporting, but I'll just tell you right now that they were education, job creation, healthcare, small business development, and women's empowerment. Not sure if you can see the chart, but if not, those are the top 5. And then 30% of those surveyed were very interested in impact investment, and 31% were somewhat interested. So that's 60% out of the total population surveyed across all genders, income groups, and ages. And given that only about 30% were familiar with impact investing at the start of the study, that's a pretty encouraging statistic. Of the groups that were neutral or not interested in impact investing, one of the primary barriers was lack of money, which would be what you would expect. But there was also concern about corruption issues in Mexico. And that's something that we've seen with IdEA as a theme with diaspora populations. You have groups that are very excited to engage, feel very connected with their home countries, but that are wary because of corruption or other issues in these countries, and they're seeking transparency and accountability. And so that's one of the things that Calvert will be looking to focus on with these diaspora investment initiatives, is how to improve that transparency and accountability in order to build trust with folks that are maybe skeptical of financial institutions or concerned about corruption in their home countries. And as I already mentioned, about 30% of the total respondents were familiar with impact investing. Awareness was higher in the highest income bracket, most likely because they have the most experience with investing. And so with that, we're actually going to wrap up, and I'm going to turn it back over to Lee to recap all of the ways that you can get involved with our Latin America initiatives specifically.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrea, and thank you for that recap. So just to go over what we've discussed so far, there are a few ways for everyone to get involved, which is easiest one, become an IdEA member. It's free to join. It's really just an online form that takes 2 minutes to fill out, and sign up for our newsletter. The newsletter is how we send out sort of all of our updates about upcoming programming and events and webinars, et cetera, et cetera. And I'd also really encourage this group to join the Diaspora Map. As Sarah said, it's a really sort of dynamic, interactive tool that we've developed, and that is pretty unique right now in the diaspora space, but it's really only as strong as the groups that are on it. So we'd love to have a much bigger presence in the region, and would really encourage you all to use it and make it a resource, and to also give us feedback on what your experience is like with it. So please sign up for the Diaspora Map as well. We'd also encourage you to attend a capacity development training that we host. We host them, as we said, regularly, at least once a month. And we're always looking for suggestions from the diaspora community to help us understand, what resources are you looking for? And specifically, as I said, we'd really love to hear from the Latin American diaspora community more strongly in terms of what type of resources can we provide to sort of help everyone get involved more. As Sarah mentioned, host or attend an event for Global Diaspora Week. Again, we'd really like to have a strong presence throughout Central and South America this year for Global Diaspora Week. So if you are at all interested, or if you have any questions or just want to discuss ideas for an event or attend an event, please reach out and chat with us. We're very happy to do that. And as Sarah said, it can be as low barrier or as high energy as you'd like for that event. We also regularly post blogs on the IdEA website where we really feature the work of our members. So our role as a platform really is to help sort of spread the word about diasporas and the great work that all of you are doing. So if you're interested in writing a blog post about some of the work you're doing, we're happy to do that. And also we send it out through our newsletter. So again, please feel free to reach out to us. Tell us what you think, not only about this webinar and about the resources that we've listed, but what else you really think would be useful and good for diaspora communities in your region to take advantage of that. So I see that now we're going to open it all up to questions here. And as again, just go ahead and type it to the chat box on the left. And so I see we have a question from Marcelo in Seattle, Washington, which is, how do we get more info on Calvert Foundation's investment focus grants? So just again, to clarify, Calvert Foundation does not give grants. We're not a grant-making institution, and neither does IdEA. You can learn more about Calvert Foundation's investment focus by going to visit our website, which is just www.calvertfoundation.org. Specifically for the Latin American Diaspora Initiative, we will have more information about the investment focus for that portfolio in the coming months, in the early fall on that. However, you can also go to visit Calvert Foundation's website, and we have a map of all of our current borrowers on the website, which you can toggle around and explore in the countries and the regions or by the sectors that you're interested in. Okay, so we have one more question from Charles, which is, what have been the most compelling investments for Calvert? Which industries? That's a very interesting question, Charles. And, I think that it really depends on what sort of your areas of interest are in. What I can speak to about it, which has been a really interesting experience for us, is the process that we've gone through over the past about 2 years, which is focusing, really focusing on different areas of impact and designing issue-based initiatives around those areas of impact. So we first started doing this with our Win-Win initiative, which was our Women Investing in Women initiative, where we, had a lot of demand from our borrowers, from financial advisors, from investors to really design a program that focused on women. And I think a lot of you on the call are probably familiar with a lot of the research that's gone on about the really outsized economic effective and social effective investing in women. So Win-Win was really our first experiment with that. We did a $20 million portfolio that was focused on investing in women around the world, so both here in the US and internationally. And we took our product, the Community Investment Note, and we branded it as a win-win note, and really marketed it to people as, with that idea first rather than the Calvert Foundation first. And it was a very interesting result for us because we got a lot of new investors and a lot of people who were new to impact investing. And what they really cared about was women. And because that impact and sort of idea was really first and foremost for them, and they were able to really see and understand, where the investments were going and what impact it was having, it was a lot easier for them to engage because investing is a really high barrier activity for most people. And that's not only in the US, but across the world. And so the more that, we can speak to the issues that people are really passionate about and look at our portfolio and really start to organize it, under certain themes, I think the more people will be able to engage in this type of impact investing. And we have one more comment, which is from Walter from Chile. Walter, congratulations on being a finalist for IdEA in 2013. We'd be very excited to have you as a part of Global Diaspora Week this year. So please, as I said, if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, reach out to us about GDW. And I'd also like to say that if any of you need any inspiration or are looking for some ideas about that, on our website, you can find a list of all 70 plus events that happened in GDW for the Global Diaspora Week last year. And so please feel free to take a look at that. And Tyler from Guatemala asks, one of the topics we touched on in Merida, which was at the FLII, the Latin American Impact Investing Forum, was deal flow and intermediaries. How can Alterna and similar organizations become involved as an intermediary within the Latin American initiative? So, Tyler, I would encourage you to take a look on Calvert Foundation's website. We have a list for our investment criteria. And it's a pretty extensive list. So go ahead and take a look at that list, and feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about any of the qualifications on that list. And Tyler has brought up an important part about the way that we invest, which is Calvert Foundation does not typically invest in operating businesses. We operate like a fund of funds. So we lend to other intermediaries who are then on lending to the businesses that are operating on the ground. Excellent. So do we have any other questions? Any more IdEA initiatives like the incubator? So Walter, I think we're gonna, I might need a little more clarification from you on that question about IdEA initiatives like the incubator. I'm not quite sure what that one is referring to. I think we're going to have to follow up with you on that one offline, Walter, about the incubator program for 2014 and 2015. And we can share more information about that once we clarify that as well. Okay, excellent. So I think we're at about a half hour now, and unless there are any other questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the webinar. We will have the recording of this webinar along with the presentation posted on the IdEA website by the end of the week. So you guys can feel free to go and visit it there. And really, as I said, if anyone has any additional questions that you'd like to follow up with us offline, we're very happy to do that. So thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to hopefully engaging with you as IdEA members in the future. All right, have a great day, everyone.